Sarah. It is 9 o'clock.
Perfect. Well, let's call the meeting to order and begin with a roll call, I believe.
Of course. Jerry Abrahams,
Here.
Phil DeFronzo, Timothy Hodges, Kathy McKinnon,
Here.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Here.
Chelsea Ross,
Here.
Sarah Sanders,
Here,
and Commissioner Perez, I see you're joining. Can you hear us yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. Thank you. We do have a quorum for the meeting.
great. Well, thank you, everyone. Welcome to the meeting where it looks like we're finally going to get some rain for our grass and our plants out there. So today we have our standard reports and report on a bond sale, and then with JP Morgan, and then 2 action items relative to selection of vendors. And with that, I'll turn it over to Hazim for the first one on bond underwriters.
Good morning, everybody. As the committee chair stated, finance do have 2 action items that we would like to present to the board for recommendation. The first resolution is to appoint bond underwriters for CHFA bond programs, the Housing Mortgage Finance Program bonds, the state-supported special obligation bonds, and the housing revenue bonds. As required by our statute and procedures, we are to conduct and publish a RFP once every 3 years for bond underwriters. The appointment will be effective for 3 years or for calendar year 2025 through 2027. The last evaluation was done in 2021. In summary, we received 28 proposals, of which 9 were from firms that did not respond in 2021. With the assistance from our financial advisor, we reviewed and evaluated each proposal on a variety of items, including the firm's performances over the current engagement period, retail network, institutional investor relationship, housing bond expertise, underwriting, and credit capacity. Our summary review, findings, and supporting recommendation are included in your packet. Accordingly, for the Housing Mortgage Finance Program bonds, we are recommending approval for 14 firms. 4 firms to act as senior manager on a rotational basis and by program. 4 firms to act as co-senior manager, where each firm will be partnered with a senior manager on a rotational basis and by program. 6 firms to act as co-managers. For the state-supported special obligation bonds, we are recommending 4 firms, 1 firm to act as a senior manager, 1 firm to act as a co-senior manager, and 2 firms to act as co-managers. And finally, for the housing revenue bonds, we are recommending approval for a firm to act as a senior manager. The names of the firms are in the resolution, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or address any comments the committee may have at this time.
Can you go to table 1 on the screen? Because I think it's a really nice summary of who was promoted, who.
Sure. Lorraine, can you push it to the next
Table
one?
1. There you go. Okay, so the red were actually kind of moved down, and the green were kind of promoted, and then 9 are, blue are the new, and there's 9 new firms. I noticed that you really, if you go to the second page, you really expanded the selling
Second page.
a lot.
Next page, please, Lorraine.
Thank you. So look at all the new firms you added to the selling group. So you really didn't have much of a selling group before. Now you're expanding it quite a bit. Is that the case?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to acknowledge the firms that did respond in 2021. We looked at them, and we are also trying to welcome new firms to show what they can provide and perform on behalf of CHFA.
Right. But go back to the first page of this table 1. But the big roles, there's really no changes, the four major ones, it's the biggest roles, right? Am I reading that correctly? Or was Ramirez previously in that group?
So there's a couple of things, Sarah. Previously, we also had City as a senior manager.
Okay,
Since they exited the business, so you're left with the remaining senior managers. And looking at how they did and perform along with other firms. So we went through the whole exercise and trying to determine whether or not they merit to stay or remain as a senior manager or basically move down.
was there any firm that applied that wasn't put in any role?
No, we did include everybody.
Okay, so you brought them in the selling group. That's nice.
Yeah. And I think, and this is just because we want to make sure, because I know that assuming that the board accepts our recommendation, we are going to provide additional color to each firm to let them know in terms of, why they were selected in the roles for the upcoming engagement, so that anything that they can glean from the result, they will definitely have future opportunities to work with CHFA in a different role.
Okay, thank you for answering those initial questions. Does anyone else have questions for Hazim on the outcome?
Yeah, my hands up.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I do see the commissioner. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I mean, I don't want nobody to think that I don't like West Fargo, but if it wasn't for bad publicity and if it wasn't for bad behavior, they would not be doing any business. As recent as September 12th, there was one of the most serious type of enforcement against them around money laundering and not following the law. I really have a hard time us doing business with a bank that in the past has had issues with CRA, now has issues with their AML and money laundering. And all you have to do is Google, enforcement action against West Fargo Bank, and it comes up. As the banking commissioner, I feel obligated to point out that you're going to continue to do business with someone that continues to break the law and is not running the shop the way it's supposed to be, and may expose the country to terrorists or other people that don't really like us to have access to our financial system. So I've done my job. Personally, I find it very difficult to do business with an entity that continues to get in trouble, with the most recent one being one of the most serious actions that a regulator can take against a bank, and around one of the most serious things that you could get in trouble with. As bad as it is for them open accounts for people without people knowing, as bad as it is them charging fees for accounts that people never knew they had, money laundering, that kind of stuff is really big, really big thing. And they're not getting accused of them themselves doing the money laundering, but because of the system and the lack of controls, there's been people that have been able to use their system, So again, I just want to bring it to people's attention, and all you have to do is Google, regulatory action against West Fargo Bank, and it'll pop up.
So, George, are you suggesting that we should vote against this because of
I
that?
suggest that we maybe put them in some sort of status that for a little while we don't kind of do business with them and let them get their act together, or you're taking a chance that you're helping an entity that, well, you're not taking a chance. You will be helping an entity that has been accused and who has signed an agreement admitting to deficiencies and having to take action around money laundering, So at least give them a chance to fix their problem, right? And to screwed up the next problem.
I've got a comment, but Chelsea's got her hand up, so she should speak first.
It's not on this issue, Tim, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Hazim, is there any, because look, Wells Fargo is a enormous bank. You know, obviously there are different departments, different areas, not everyone is involved in the, bad actors. I mean, is there any advantage into having that group come in and having a conversation with us? I'm just making a recommendation. If in fact you guys believe that they're worthy, giving them an opportunity to plead their case.
Yeah, so I think I think the commissioner and then Tim, you touch on it a bit, the fact that Wells Fargo, the parent is a enormous financial institution, and the entity that we correspond with is within public finance. And one of the things that Wells Fargo does very well for CHFA over the existing engagement period is the fact that they do have a broad retail network where it consists of individual Connecticut resident investors that do have accounts. And by utilizing Wells Fargo, you have resident being able to access and able to buy CHFA bonds directly when we offer our bond to the public. So you have that segment of the roles of our underwriters, but I do understand, and we had prior conversation previously about CRA, and then now we have something else, which I would also say that this conversation or this issue applies to everybody that we work with. So whenever that we get any headline news, we pause, we look, and we try to determine how to address it, because most of the time the failure is not being borne by the public finance group, but by a separate entity. So it's always been a struggle, but I welcome the opportunity, and I think that Wells Fargo will also welcome the opportunity to have a meeting or to have an update to the committee or to the full board and address any concerns.
Look, can I make another comment?
Yes.
Sure.
Bank of America is as big, if not bigger, actually it's bigger than Wells Fargo. Morgan Stanley is also a humongous entity. RBC is also a humongous entity. And we have other alternatives that can do the job. That's good. None of them, no matter how big they are being accused of the serious crimes that Wells Fargo is being accused of. Number one. Number two, they all are like a chain, and the chain has a whole bunch of rings. And the chain as a whole is only as strong as the weakest link. So their investment area could be very strong, but other areas are very weak. And I'm telling you, you're exposing the agency to do business with someone who may end up doing business with a criminal or a country that really hates us and wants to see us dead, or a terrorist. Having a weak AML system is a serious charge. I would suggest that even before you contact Wells Fargo, you may want to have a legal department look at it and get a better feel to advise you of what the allegations are. And I'm not suggesting we don't ever do business with them. I'm suggesting that they need to get the act together and make us feel comfortable that they're addressing the issues in that agreement, which was only issued like 2 weeks ago, which means the regulator's been working on it for months, if not a year. So they should be able to fix some of those problems really quickly, because this is not something they found yesterday, right? In order for an agreement, I mean, and I'm telling you as a regulator, that's one of the most strongest actions you could take. Like for instance, we issued one recently against one of the state banks. We worked on that for a year and a half. So by the time we issue it, the bank definitely knows what the issues are. The bank should really have something in place to fix it. And what I'm saying is, until they fix those problems and that specific problem, we may want to skip them. Put them in a freeze for whatever months it takes. us getting a return, we're gonna get a return no matter what. We have some great people on our list. I think the other 1, 2, 3 companies there could do the job as well as West Fargo. I think some of our call managers definitely could do the job as good as West Fargo. We're not gonna lose anything by skipping them, for 3, 4 months. I'm not arguing that we take them off the list. I'm not arguing that we excommunicate them. What I'm saying is they at least got to make us feel comfortable, that they're addressing that very serious charge. And by meeting with the people from the investment area, they're not going to be able to make you feel comfortable, because they're not the ones doing it. And you're right. Sometime because of the sins of our parent, the siblings, the kids pay for it, right? But they are the corporate entity. And all I'm saying is we should at least do some due diligence. And maybe Paul's doing business with them for 3 or 4 months until they can give us assurance that they have addressed a very serious charge. This is not, redlining, which is really bad. This is not discriminating against Blacks and Hispanics and other females and other people, which is really bad. This is really making the financial system available to people that you should not be doing that. And people that really, really hate this country.
Hey, Hazim,
I'll leave it at that.
is there anything that precludes us from keeping them off this list? And let's just say it's a 6-month period, and then having them, I hear George's point about they're not going to be able to tell us, but they've got legal folks who can tell us. And I presume that if you call them and say, hey, you're off this list, or you're going to be held up until you can account for some of these issues, they're probably going to call their legal team in to address whatever concerns they have. So is there anything that precludes us from holding them off for a period of time?
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. That's ways to do it. So right now, what we have, at least based on the list, is we are recommending for Wells Fargo to act as one of the senior managers for that period. So one way is we leave them on the list, but we don't use them. The other way is we move them to a different category. I think that because we're trying to seek approval for firms to act for as or to perform certain roles. Do you want us to, or do you have any issues for us to leave them where they are and then we just don't use them for 6 months? Or do you really want us to remove them from the list?
To me, it's six in one hand and half a dozen in the other. I mean, if you leave them on the list, I think what George is trying to get to is right is changing behavior. And so if you leave them on the list but don't use them and don't tell them, it's not really going to do anything. If you leave them on the list and you say, look, we're not using you, but we want you to come in and address these issues, then if they start to hear that from other entities as well, then I think they start to at least try to address some of these issues.
Hazim?
Yes.
If I may, I guess I'll take. I understand the seriousness of the conduct they're alleging, but I do think we need to sort of recognize what we'll essentially be doing here by not going forward with the recommendation. These are very big firms, and I worked at Citibank for many years. The public finance business is a very, very, very small business as a part of these firms. That's just the reality. And we've seen that with Citibank's exit from the business recently. So all we are doing effectively, and I understand Commissioner, I understand your intention, but all we are effectively doing is penalizing the kids for the sins of the parent. We're not sending any real message unless we make it very public, and I doubt we're going to do that. And I think that it really, in the best interests of the primary people we're supposed to serve, which are the home buyers and renters in the state of Connecticut, I don't think we are helping them by after Hazim runs with the financial advisors an objective process and deciding who's the best service provider here, then not choosing to use them. as to try to affect the change in corporate behavior when there's other people out there that's what their primary job is. And so I think that all we end up doing is making it difficult for our service providers to provide us with the service that we need, and not really kind of like affecting the larger picture. So again, having been on the other side of this for many, many years, I think we are supposed to, stick to our lane. If Hazim's process is, these are his recommendations, speaking personally, I'm inclined to accept that as is, and let the other regulatory bodies and others out there affect behavior. So that's just my perspective.
Kathy, did you have something on this topic, Kathy McKinnon?
Yes, a couple things. So, running a nonprofit for 30 something years, it's not always just impropriety, but the appearance of impropriety that I'm always sensitive to. But I think Commissioner Perez brings up a good point when talking about due diligence. So when we do these RFPs, what is that due diligence process? And, if we go ahead and with Wells Fargo, would we be able to sort of defend our decision in a coherent way because we did a due diligence process?
Yes.
I have my hands up again, in case
Yeah.
people missed it.
So Kathy, at least from my side, the answer is yes, we can defend it. But again, it all depends to who's asking the question and then what angle that they are using. Wells Fargo, the arm for the public finance to provide us with the support. They are not censored by the SEC or any of the federal regulatory bodies. If something like that to occur, that we cannot engage them.
I'm listening to the finance. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I definitely want to speak because you guys just don't understand the process. They were censored by the primary regulatory body, the OCC. That is the chief cop. People, they were censored. They were hit with a fine. They were hit with an agreement. And that's not allegations. An agreement means both sides agree that something is wrong. You're going to fix it. This is not some activist saying they did something wrong. This is the primary regulator, the entity that has the right to put them out of business, saying if you don't change your behavior, it's an agreement. If you don't comply with this agreement, we're going to put you out of business. Number one. Number two, I think Jerry forgets that you have stated this, but we went out and to bid, RFP, whatever the right word is, and we came up with a whole list of senior managers, whole list of co-managers. So it's not like we're going to shortchange any of our residents. It's not like we're not going to be able to do our job. We'll simply use another member, another group, another entity from that list who can do the job, because you told us that we should put them in the list because they all could do the job. And on my 10 years in this thing and my other 6 years prior, I've been in many finance committee meetings and I'm familiar with all the companies. I'm much more familiar with them now as commissioner than I was as a banker, and they're all capable of doing the job. And again, we could just keep them in the bigger list and skip them. This reminds me and I don't want to, I didn't want to go there, but there have been times in history where people misbehave and other people say, well, that doesn't impact me. So as long as it doesn't impact me, I'm not going to get involved. Well, it does impact us, all of us. We have an entity and we have a federal law enforcement entity, a regulator saying, you are breaking the law. Read the agreement and read the documents. That's why I haven't provided to anybody. I want you to look at it because this is not personal for me. This is professional. And you tell me who you do business with, and I'll tell you who you are. You can't say you advocate for people and law and order, and then you do business with people who are not being alleged. This is not an allegation.
So can I suggest?
Stop.
So I am looking at the OCC release 2024-99 that was issued on September 12th. That talks about the OCC issues enforcement action against Wells Fargo Bank.
And you know what LCC is, right? That is a federal
Yes,
regulator.
yes,
That
yes.
is law enforcement. Going back to your point, if we knew that
From the bank.
that a federal, a law enforcement entity, right? They has a law enforcement for banks. And
Right.
again, look, MT Bank, humongous bank, they're not getting accused of that stuff. Bank of America, probably bigger than all of them. They're not getting accused of that stuff, right? Everybody else seems to get it, except for them. And we're not going to hurt our constituents. We have other entities who are equally capable, because you told us that.
So my recommendation, if we can put them in the penalty box. Provide a period and then we can invite them in to provide an update to CHFA management and its board. And then they will get off, or they can only get out from the penalty box when we are satisfied.
Moved.
Are we okay with that? Like we leave them on the list, but we basically just put them in the penalty box.
I like that recommendation. I don't really buy the argument that it doesn't involve the group of investment bankers that deal with us, that it's some other part of the bank, because we are hiring an institution, you know, so I do like having some sort of review, because I was not aware of this actually, fairly recent, and I'd like to learn more about it too. So I like doing something to respond to this concern.
I agree with you. And this is not the only action against them in the last 12 months, by the way, but I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions?
So just to clarify, we're okay with the list, and then CHFA management will put them in the penalty box, or you want us to tinker with the list? Because
I'm fine with keeping them in the list, because I am positive they're going to fix it. Because if they don't,
Okay.
they're going to be put out of business.
Right.
This is
Okay.
one of those. This is one of those crimes that you cannot get away with continuing to do.
Yeah, I agree. Just leave them on the list, but you know, have this procedure for follow-up is what I think might work well.
And I believe in
Okay.
third chances. I believe in fourth chances in their case. You know.
Chelsea, did you have a
You know that-
question on another topic, or anybody else?
I thought Chelsea had her
Yep.
hand up.
It was actually Kathy covered part of it. I wasn't on the board during the last RFP period, so I was wondering just if there were significant changes to the evaluation process compared to previous RFP cycles.
No, the process was the same. I think that as noted in the summary, we did receive new proposals from firms that did not respond in 2021. You know, I wish is because that they love CHFA a lot more than other states. That's the reason why they respond. But mainly is because there's a lot more what do you call that, attention towards housing, and then we also had firms that exited the housing business, such as Citi and UBS. So some of the firms that did respond, they were ex Citi or UBS members.
Okay, and are there any anticipated cost savings or increases expected due to the changes of firms?
The cost, there won't be directly to them. The cost savings that we would realize, and this is something that we took into consideration when we were evaluating, was which firm could provide us access to the lowest cost of capital, meaning that when we sell bonds, they can attract investors to put in orders. Therefore, we can then negotiate a lower interest rate. So we believe that the firms being recommended can provide us with that opportunity.
I just wanted to note that the two firms being elevated to co-senior managers, Drexel and Mishler, are both veteran-owned firms. Is that correct? I just want the board members.
Well, actually, there's the three of them. So Bancroft,
Bancroft
Drexel,
too.
Mishler.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Mishler, in addition to being a veteran, is also a minority firm.
And then Stern Brothers is a woman-owned firm. So I just want to point that out to the other board members that the co-seniors are all, you know, filling a role there in terms of bringing in veteran-owned and women and minority-owned firms.
And just to point out, Sarah, the concept of establishing a co-senior was established back in 2021 when we decided at the time to promote and provide more opportunities to smaller firms, minority firms, veterans firms, to have more exposure to affordable housing.
Yes. Could be even more on here, but we'll see in the next round. Any other questions on this item? And I'd ask for a motion to approve the resolution as amended as we discussed with relative to Wells Fargo. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, passes on a vocal vote. Okay, on to our next item regarding broker dealers.
Okay, so hopefully this one should be a smoother one. The second resolution pertains to the need to engage broker-dealer firms for CHFA production. In 2023, CHFA amended its procedures and added a section on broker-dealer. Broker-dealer allows CHFA to raise proceeds for its production through the sale of its mortgage-backed securities or bonds. As required by such procedure, our financial advisor, Ken Mitter, sent out a RFI to qualified firms. They received 25 responses, 16 for the mortgage-backed security sales through TBA, and 9 for the selling group. After reviewing the responses with Ken Mitter, we are recommending approval of a list containing 11 firms plus authority bond underwriters for TBA sales, and a list containing 24 firms, which include 9 firms from the resolution previously for the selling group. Both lists are incorporated in the resolution. I'll be happy to answer any questions or address any comments. So Lorraine, can you go to the next page? And then scroll down. So section 1 has the list of the firms that did request to be added to the TBA sales. And then you go to the next page, Lorraine. So these are the firms that will act and may participate as a selling member for our bonds.
So Hazim, I'm confused. How does this differ from the selling group that we approved in the previous resolution?
So the selling group wasn't approved in the prior resolution. It was just only noted in terms of what happened and what did we recommend per their proposal. So if you look at the resolution previously, the prior resolution only approved bond underwriters, and as you know, selling members, they are not part of the syndicate and they don't sign yeah.
So you're saying the prior resolution just showed here are the people who applied and here's how we put them, but this actually is the approval of the full selling group.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I'll move, Jerry.
Second?
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Item passes on a vocal vote. Next item is a report on the last bond issue. Let's keep it a little high level, given our timing.
Okay, so we have in the room with us representative from JP Morgan who acted as the senior manager for the last deal that literally closed last Tuesday. So we have Brent, Gloria, and June representing JP Morgan, as I said. So trying to just hand it over to them and try to keep it short. So who's going to?
We'll keep it relatively short, because I think we did go a little bit longer in the first segment. Thank you all very much. We had the opportunity to sell the Series E about 2 weeks ago, which was a little bit different sale. It was a mix of multifamily and single family. In fact, was a little bit different from what I think CHFA has typically done, which was there was a very small tax exempt piece of about 15 million, and the taxable piece was about 175 million, which is pretty sizable for the authority. Overall, generally, I think the key points I want to highlight are just themes that we saw in the market during that period. Again, it was only 2 weeks ago, but we were sort of comparing to where things were back in July when the authority was last in the market. Clearly, everyone was sort of focused on the Fed and what was going to happen. As we saw, the Fed actually did cut, but I think it was a wise decision on Zoom's part to get in the market ahead of that, just to make sure we didn't have any sort of volatility to deal with. We've also seen a fair amount of supply that week in the market. We had a market of about 14.8 billion, which is double digits. Typically in the muni market, we like to be under 10 billion. We consider that sort of normal supply. And interestingly enough, that actually was that double-digit supply has been occurring over the last 3 to 4 weeks, which is unusual because typically at the end of August, most folks go on vacation, you see less issuance. We saw the opposite. We saw a very heavy calendar, so we were sort of dealing with that. In addition, there was a bit of investor fatigue because I think over the last 2 to 3 months, we had seen interest rates drop tremendously. If you compare it to the last time CHFA was in the market, we saw treasuries drop anywhere from 130 to 70 basis points across the curve. And MMD also dropped about 100 basis points to 44 basis points, which is pretty significant. So a lot of investors who may have participated in the summer, I think we're taking a slight pause to sort of see where interest rates were going to come out. In addition, we've seen a lot of ongoing volatility in the treasury market, which is something that we pay particular attention to. And lastly, September had a lower reinvestment period in the market. Typically, we define reinvestment as coupon payments and principal redemptions coming due that can be reinvested back into the market. In September, it was relatively low at only 25 billion. Overall, we saw, I think, a relatively good subscription both on the tax exempt and the taxable side. Ultimately, we were able to make adjustments on most maturities in both. We thought ultimately we saw good retail participation. On the taxable side, we saw about 30 million of retail, with about 80% being Connecticut residents. And the tax exempt side, we saw about 31 million of retail, again, about 84% of Connecticut residents. Overall, we thought it was a very good sale. We were able to get adjustments in most maturities. And we thought, just given the headwinds we saw in the market, that it turned out very well. Happy to take any questions.
Sarah, you're muted.
Any questions, anyone? Thank you. Let's go on to our next report then. Allison Murphy, financial report.
Good morning. Before you are the August financial reports. On the revenue side, mortgage loan and investment interest revenue are coming in 18 million above budget through August and 24.4 million higher than last year. The year-over-year revenue variances continue to be driven by the increase in investment interest income due to the current interest rate environment. On the expense side, bond interest expense is 8.7 million above budget through August and 19.4 million higher than last year. The authority's outstanding bonds as of August 31st are 357 million higher than the same time last year. Servicer fees are 7.2 million above budget through August and 6.4 million higher than the prior year. The increase in single-family production is driving this variance. Administrative expenses are coming in 4.7 million below budget and 122,000 higher than last year. When you exclude salaries and benefits of $20 million, the current year expenses are 413,000 lower than last year. And lastly, the change in net position is above target by 12.3 million. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Allison? Hearing none, let's move on to production and delinquency report with John Chilson.
Good morning. Loan production for the month of August remained very strong. The authority purchased 302 loans totaling $81 million. Comparing that to a year ago, that's 73% more in loan count and 88% more in dollar value over August of 2023. 97% of August's production was securitized for, that's 293 loans totaling $79 million, and then remaining 9 loans totaling $2 million were whole loans. The average loan size was $268,000 in August, and the mortgage-backed security portfolio balance ended the month at $3.2 billion, which is a $65 million increase over July. The whole loan portfolio for July declined by 61 loans, totaling $8 million, with ending with a portfolio balance of $1.1 billion. The whole loan delinquency rate was just a little over 5%, which is in line with the national average and 18 basis points lower than the state of Connecticut's delinquency average. The loans, carrying balance of loans in foreclosure year over year declined by roughly $3 million to $11 million, and with 20 fewer foreclosures than in a year ago. Also for the month of August, the authority funded 58 down payment assistance loans totaling $660,000, an average loan size about $11,000, and 320 time to own forgivable loans totaling $9.8 million, an average loan size is just under $31,000. On our multifamily portfolio, there were no new loan closings in August. Portfolio declined by 5 loans to 591 loans totaling $1.4 billion. There were 7 permanent loan delinquencies, which is unchanged from last month. And the overall delinquency rate for the multifamily portfolio is just under 0.5%. Any questions?
Hearing none, we'll move on to our internal audit report from Joyce County.
Morning. I want to provide you today with an update on the 2024 internal audit plan and the activities we've performed to date. Starting with the CHFA portfolio. We have been reviewing the home buyer mortgage loan business transaction flows, moving from the front end or loan origination, which was completed in 2023, to back end processes in 2024 performed by finance portfolio management. So during the period, we completed reviews of internal controls over the purchase and accounting for first mortgage whole loans and subordinate loans. So those would include DAP, TTO, as well as reimbursements made to the authority's seller servicer for loans which have been purchased and will be securitized as mortgage-backed securities. And the testing spanned an 18-month period ending September 30, 2023. The second review was for the pooling of qualified first mortgage loans by the authority's seller servicer and the purchase and accounting of the associated mortgage-backed securities guaranteed by insurers, Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. And the testing was for a 12-month period ending 12/31/2023. These 2 transaction flows, one the first for the whole loans and the second for the MBSs, are the transaction flows that feed through to the balance sheet. So therefore giving us fairly good and substantial coverage of the internal controls that tie to the balance sheet. Based on the testing results, we've concluded that the baseline processes of these transaction flows checked out fine. Management is or has been implementing audit recommendations during our review, and I've included in the back of our package the detailed reports that have been issued. The audit of single-family homeowner loan payoffs is in process. Turning now to servicer compliance reviews. So once the loans are on the books for the single-family side, we outsource the processing of the whole loans to mortgage loan servicers. The plan of 2024 included 3 servicers representing about 43% of the homeowner first mortgage loan portfolio. To date, 2 of these reviews have been completed and 1 is in process. The scope of these reviews include the servicing and collection functions outsourced to loan servicers. I just wanted to provide you with an update on McHugh Mortgage, who is the authority's largest single-family loan servicer. For reference, the organization services approximately 3,000 home buyer first mortgage loans with an approximate balance of $289 million. or approximately 26.4% of the single-family first mortgage loans. So during our review, we identified a similar condition, which has been previously discussed with the committee, related to the custodial bank account maintained for CHFA. Specifically, the authority's principal and interest and borrower's escrow account funds are consolidated into one bank account rather than separate. And the borrower's negative escrows are funded from this account rather than from the servicer's corporate account. This has resulted in an approximate shortage in the custodial bank account of approximately $1.9 million as of March 31, 2024. During the review, McHugh disagreed with the reference to nonconformance with the banking laws, which we referenced in our review letter, and did not provide a corrective action plan for this condition. After discussions with CHFA management determined that it would be appropriate to contact the Department of Banking to clarify the law. McHugh then has provided us with an updated response, which indicated that they are working to meet the requirements, and they have been given until January 15th, 2025 to rectify the condition. Moving on, to assist the authority in improving its operating and accomplishing its business objectives, from time to time, we will do advisory services. During the period, we reviewed and provided comments on various sections of the authority's procedures for single family and multifamily, and continue to participate on various authority-wide committees. That's all outlined in the detailed audit plan provided with this report. We are also begun a review of Build for CT or funding for workforce housing program, which is being administered by multifamily. And lastly, in addition to the audit plan activities, we've been working with IT and business services to evaluate internal audit management software products for potential implementation in 2025. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, it sounds like the process we used with McHugh was successful, working with the Department of Banking. It sounds like, they disagreed at first and then they saw the light and now they're going to improve, right? So that seems like a success. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. We will continue to track this and follow up. But yes, I do think that was very helpful.
Commissioner Perez?
Tell you, they're not going to improve, they're going to comply.
Yes.
You could call it improve. And I feel very confident that they will before that.
Is it just me or can anybody else hear George?
Can't hear you that well, George.
I don't know why, because before it was working okay. Can you hear me better now?
Not really.
We could hear you before.
They're going to comply.
They
already are partially in compliance. And I'm more than happy to put it in contact our, CHFA's auditor with anybody in my staff, and we could share anything you want, if you're interested in it.
Well, it just looks like it was a good outcome to get, our servicer to see the light. Any other questions, Commissioner? Do you have any more comments? Any other questions? Our last item is approval of the minutes of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting on July 25th. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention? The minutes pass on a vocal vote. Any other matters to bring up or discuss? I guess I had a question on what form the Wells Fargo follow-up might take. Is it going to be at another Finance Committee meeting where maybe they address our group, or will it be a review by Hazim? And
No, I mean, I think, we are going to invite them and make a presentation to the committee. So I would like the committee to hear directly from them instead of us trying to interpret what they're trying to say.
Yeah, so just, I mean, George made a recommendation, which is having our legal team look into the issues. I mean, it would be helpful for me. I mean, I'd love to hear him come in and talk, but one, I don't know what all the issues are. So understanding, you know, kind of line by line, what the not allegations, but what the charges are, for lack of a better term, and then having them address those. So I don't want them to just come in and make a presentation. It's not going to be useful.
Yeah, no, that I understood that it is very specific to the enforcement action by the OCC.
And I also wonder, so often when I see these regulatory actions, it's just sometimes it's just that's the first one, and then there's others to follow across the board. But I'm hearing from the commissioner that this is focused on this one firm. So any information you can provide on that, because so often it is broad reaching. So we'll look for some follow-up on that. Any other matters? Very good. So I'll call for a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very
Dean,
good.
Kasim, can you stay around for 1 second, please?
Very good. We'll see you at the board meeting.
Did you say, Commissioner?
If you and Nadine could stay on for 1 quick second.
Yeah. Do you want me to go?
We can call you back.
We can call you back, like on a private
Okay.
line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably better.
I want to tell you about a conversation I had with the governor on something that I need to bring to your attention.